Thanks so much. Welcome, everybody. And I think, Patty, you're going to pull up the agenda. Is that right? I think we've got some slides for you here. Welcome, everybody. We're so happy to have you here at Power in the House, which is our kickoff meeting for the California Grassroots Alliance. Now, I know we've been around for a little while and doing meet the candidate meetings and things like that, but this is the official kickoff for the effort to sweep 6 purple districts and take back the House, because the road to the House, we believe, runs through California. I'm going to just run through the agenda quickly. My name's Tom Bentham. I'm one of the Alliance founders and leaders. I'm with Indivisible Sonoma County. You'll meet others of us tonight. You will also see a lot of other folks in the meeting tonight, and it's not just those of us who put this together, but it is really everybody here that's critical and is going to be important in coming together as an alliance to take back the House. We're going to have some interactive components tonight. We want to be able to hear from you and do some temperature checks. We have a video for you that we have just put together. By just, I mean like late last night. Got that put together, called Firebreak. We are thrilled to have Ben Wikler from the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, Katie Porter, our beloved Katie from California 47, Jess Craven of Chopwood, and Carrie Water, one of the most dynamic activists in the country. And we are going to also be laying out our roadmap for how we're going to get the job done by sweeping 6, combining our bird's eye view and on the ground views. We're going to do a little bit of a dive into a bird's eye view. We're going to talk about some tools that we have for you for the ground up portion, the volunteer engagement. And we will end with being stronger together and inviting you to join us. I'll start out by saying we are going to drop links in the chat right away. The fact that you signed up for this means that you are an Alliance member, right? You're here with us and you will continue to get notifications from us. But if you are a group leader, we would in particular love for you to sign up so we can reach out to you and help organize together with you. As the screen says, you need to point your phone's camera at this QR code. And so what that looks like, if you haven't done this before, take your iPhone or Android phone and hold it up and turn your camera on and just hold it in front of the QR code. And it's going to pop up a little icon that is going to be a link. And you just need to click on that link. And that will join your phone's camera, or it will join your phone rather, to a series of questions that we're going to ask you through the evening. And if you get hung up on the technology, don't worry about it, let it go. A bunch of people I'm sure will be able to, and we'll get a temperature check that way. And we'll pop this back up again through the evening as necessary. The first question we've got for you is, what are you looking forward to in tonight's meeting? And I'm going to give you just a minute to scan that QR code and see if you can find that question and start to populate it.
This is our first test of this software, Mentimeter, and we're going to have some fun with it and find out how well it works with a nice big group of people. So isn't this fun?
And it's starting to take shape. And let me just, I'm going to share screen for a moment.
Okay, then I will stop
which
share.
Will just give us a little bit of a picture here.
Oh,
and
yay!
I'm going to drop that. And that's what we're seeing. And this will continue to get built out as you add your comments. So with that, Patty, let me go ahead and stop share. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, all right. I'm Patty Crane, and I'm just so thrilled to see you tonight. We've all been looking forward to this time when we had our candidates lined up and we knew who they were, and here they are. And I want to talk to you about 6, the number 6, the word 6 candidates, 6 years, 6 months, because we now have our 6 winners in the 6 districts that we so carefully chose based on knowing that we really could take back the House majority if we swept these 6 districts. 6 years ago, Representative Katie Porter, who joins us at 7:30, helped show us that we could flip districts. And in fact, we flipped 7 House seats 6 years ago. Things are different, but some things are the same. We're going to talk about this. And now we have exactly 6 months before the drop box is open, and it's time to get going. So we have 6 months to register the voters and do our job. And in fact, we're going to be talking about registering voters later. And tonight we have a special donate link that's going into the chat. And that donate link is going to help us acquire the names for Field Team 6 of unregistered likely Democrats in these 6 California districts, because we want to specifically target them and make things happen, because that's how we're going to do it with more turnout. So what I'd like to say is this video is called Firebreak, and it's the result of a huge collaborative effort on the part of the Alliance founding team and on the part of so many creative team members who were recruited to contribute music, who contributed editing skills, who contributed drawing skills. Many of the backgrounds and drawings and concepts that you see are our own founder and leader, Tom Bentham himself did that work. But basically what we're talking about is, how do we tell the voters and our own group leader volunteers the story of what we got to do in these 6 districts and what the stakes are. So I'm going to unshare my screen so that Peter and another Alliance member can go ahead and share screen with our little video. And it's 2 minutes and 54 seconds. And if you miss it on this play, then we'll be able to play it again at the end of our evening together. Thank you.
We Californians are people with plans and dreams, always seeking a better life. We want the freedom to make our own choices for our families and our futures. But some people want choices only for the few. They're authoritarians, trying to burn down our democracy because they want to take all the power for themselves. They seek to restrict your choices if your language, your skin color, or your faith doesn't match theirs. If your family looks different, or even if you're a woman. They're on the march, coming to set fire to our freedoms. In state after state, these MAGA Republicans are trampling on the will of the people and passing cruel laws that force doctors to refuse health care to women, block citizens from voting, ban books and lie about history, and make the climate crisis worse. Where will they carry their torches next? They intend to go nationwide, grabbing the power to strip away our freedoms, even here in California. MAGA Republicans have gone after the 6 swing districts that come up for grabs in the U.S. House in each California election. They get themselves elected by pretending they'll work for us. But they're really working for the billionaires who paid for the criminal mob that attacked our Capitol and tried to overturn our election. In 2022, MAGA Republicans grabbed power over the House by a razor-thin margin. If they keep their grip on power, their plans for 2025 and beyond will destroy our democracy. But we Californians have learned a thing or two about fighting fires. We know what to do to stop this MAGA inferno. We sound the alarm, we alert our neighbors, we draw the line. Together, we can build a firebreak to halt this arson. We can join forces to smother the MAGA flames. And we do it with our votes. When you vote, and your family votes, and your neighbors vote, you can sweep 6 good people into Congress, take back the House majority, and defend democracy. You can protect your freedom to choose, your freedom to live your life, your freedom to keep your children safe. And you can elect a government that works for you. The road to the House majority runs through California, and you hold the power.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed that video. We were excited to share that with you. Ben Wikler, I see you grinning. And don't you love it when you see mega people shown as mega people? And let's call it what it is. Let's say what's going on. So we followed the 3 V's process that Anat Shenker-Osorio has taught us all about. You talk about your shared value first, and then you talk about the villain and their villainy. And then you pivot back to what is the vision for what your future can be like when you get rid of the problem of the villain. So essentially we did that. And later on, when there's little more time and we don't have Ben waiting, I'm going to tell you about all the wonderful people who helped with making this animatic. And we want to make it available. And I want you to know it's on our homepage of our website. It went live a couple hours ago. So cagrassrootsalliance.org. You can do it there. You can play it. You can share it with anybody you want to. So thank you very much. And now I'm going to turn it over to Tom and Ben.
Patty, thank you so much. I'm going to make this short because we've got Ben here and his time is just really precious. I don't think Ben Wikler needs an introduction to you, but I will say as a way of introduction, the reason that we really, really, really wanted to get Ben for this was because I think more than anybody else in the country, he has managed to be successful in a critical state, in a really tough state, statewide, combining both party power and grassroots organizing in a way that is just groundbreaking. And he's an inspiration to us. And that's why we wanted him here. It's a statewide effort. And we want to learn everything that we can from him. Ben, welcome. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you to Patty. Thank you to all the leaders here at the California Grassroots Alliance and everyone, all 177 people on this Zoom, on this mid-April Wednesday night. This gives me such energy and enthusiasm and hope to see everybody on this Zoom at this moment. And I'm really honored to join you as you formally launch this campaign that can save democracy. Your focus on a strategy that could move mountains is just so exciting and inspiring. So let me start by saying a huge thank you. Second thing I'll say is that I love the Wisconsin-California connection on this call. I have known Anat Shenker-Osorio since I was about 8 years old when she was in my sister's elementary school theater group. So I was the bratty little brother running around, and then she went off and moved to California and studied messaging and communication, and is working with folks across the country. And I worked in progressive politics around the country and a bit around the world, and then moved back home to Wisconsin in 2018, in a moment when, just to move us back in time, it felt like Wisconsin might be lost. And Wisconsin was the tipping point state in the Electoral College that put Trump over the top. So I want to bring you back to where things were in Wisconsin in that moment, just to help share a sense of how dire things can get before they get better, when people unite and decide that they need to be the heroes that they're waiting for and join this fight in exactly the way that everyone here is doing tonight. So Wisconsin in 2018 had been the closest state in the country into the 2004 presidential election, second closest state in 2000. It zigzagged between Barack Obama landslides and Scott Walker landslides, 2 full zigzags, or I guess 2.5. We had Obama 2008, Scott Walker 2010. Scott Walker won his recall in 2012, right before Obama won again in 2012, and then Walker won again in 2014. And in that time, he used his power. The MAGA movement, at that point, it was called the Tea Party movement, used its power to do exactly the things that you saw in the video just now. We have lived this reality in Wisconsin. They started by smashing unions, the counterweight to the power of billionaire mega donors in Wisconsin. We've had the biggest decline in union density of any state in the country in Wisconsin. Over the course of this century, no state has lost more union members, which is especially painful in a state that was the birth of public sector unions and one of the forerunners of labor rights in our nation. In Wisconsin, Republicans rigged the right to vote. They created one of the most restrictive voter ID laws. They went in detail through every way that Democrats turned out voters. and made it impossible, essentially illegal, to do door-to-door voter registration, made Wisconsin the second hardest state to vote, second hardest state to register to vote in the country, the fourth hardest state to cast a ballot in the country. They instituted the most aggressive partisan gerrymander of either party, locking in Republican near supermajorities and on the road to supermajorities in both chambers of the legislature, even in years where Democrats won a majority of the votes statewide. They changed our campaign finance laws, which now I am happy to share the state party has no limits on donations, so you can give as much as you want, but I'm sorry to share. They did this at a time when they locked out money from unions and from grassroots organizations, made it so individuals could give unlimited amounts, and then the state parties could donate unlimited amounts to the candidates. And Scott Walker's friend Reince Priebus, who became nationally famous a few years later, he would take $1 million checks from the biggest Republican donors in the country and then basically hand them over to Scott Walker. And Republicans started running the table in our state. In 2018, we had a 5-2 right-wing mega majority on our state Supreme Court. We had near supermajorities in both chambers of our state legislature. We had Tammy Baldwin, wonderful champion, and then Ron Johnson. We still have that situation. We had a Republican governor, Republican attorney general. We had nearly a total Republican lock. And the policies that they put in place accelerated mass incarceration even while it was going down in other states, gutted public education even while other states were making investments in. They banned the use of the term climate change from our Department of Natural Resources in topic after topic after topic. They were moving Wisconsin back to the 19th century. And in that moment, Democrats had a kind of a choice. People of all parties who believed in democracy could either accept their fate, the inevitable, that Wisconsin would go the way of Iowa and Ohio and Indiana, states that used to be blue or purple but had essentially been rigged by the right. Or they could unite, or they could stop blaming each other for defeat and find ways to come together and rediscover their common power and purpose and focus on rescuing democracy in the state that tipped the Electoral College for the entire country. And in a moment when despair would have been a far easier option, they refused to give up and they started to organize. So I'll take you back to 2018. In that year, in the year of the blue wave, we won every statewide election that year, but we won the governor's race by 1.1 percentage points, which we call that a Wisconsin landslide because it's more than 1 point. But that was an incredibly close election. I remember being at the victory party on election night for the governor, and one of the top activists in the state left early to just go home and go to sleep because she'd concluded we were going to lose and no one would ever want to support Wisconsin Democrats again at that point. And then they started counting the absentee ballots in Milwaukee and we went over the top. It was a preview of the 2020 red shift and the red mirage and then the blue shift. But it was that close. In 2020, we used that momentum to power us through a state Supreme Court election when the pandemic hit, and we were able to win by 11 percentage points in this extraordinary landslide when Republicans thought the COVID pandemic would suppress Democratic votes, and Democrats and so many people were so outraged by their gall that they turned out. Then that fall, we won our presidential election here by 0.6 of a percentage point. Republicans tried to overturn it. It came within one vote on our state Supreme Court. If we hadn't won the state Supreme Court race that spring, the election would have been overturned. Then Republicans decided the problem was they hadn't rigged our system enough. What do you call a failed coup? Practice. So coming out of 2020, they started introducing bills to scrap our bipartisan elections commission. They got the right-wing Supreme Court to ban absentee ballot drop boxes in our state. It's illegal in Wisconsin to return even your own relatives' absentee ballot. I spoke to a father in tears on election day in 2022, holding his daughter's absentee ballot. She was at a 24-hour nursing shift across the state, and he was not allowed to turn it in. She was disenfranchised by that court ruling. They ran massive sham investigations into the 2020 election and used that as a pretext to threaten to jail the mayors of our 5 biggest cities if they wouldn't knuckle under. They issued subpoenas galore to people all over the state. They intimidated, flooded with death threats, local elections administrator, clerks. They removed every Republican county canvasser board member who had certified the legitimate election results, so that we're one county clerk away from having a county that refuses to certify a legitimate election in this moment. They did everything they could. And we organized harder. We organized in every corner of the state. In 2016 to 2020 and 2018 to 2022, we increased the number of votes in every single county in Wisconsin for Democrats. And in 2022, when history says we should have lost the governor's race, we should have lost the supermajority, our organizing beat their cheating. That's what Jason's really saying in the chat. In Wisconsin, the president's party always loses the governor's race. No Democrat had won a governor's election with a Democratic president in the White House since 1962, when John F. Kennedy's approval rating was 70% after the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was basically written in stone. Democrats would lose in 2022. But the Republican MAGA candidate handpicked by Donald Trump after a visit to Mar-a-Lago, who ran on a platform that he supported the total abortion ban in Wisconsin and said a few weeks out from the election that once he was elected, no Republican would ever lose in the state of Wisconsin, are organizing to lift up Tony Evers, mild-mannered, decent, humane human being, to defeat this MAGA maniac. It led to a 3.4 percentage point true Wisconsin landslide in the governor's race. And in the state legislature, after the Republican Supreme Court overrode the governor's veto by itself and chose the Republicans' mega gerrymandered maps, even worse than the ones before, we held off a Republican supermajority that could have overturned the governor's veto by 0.01% of the votes cast in the state. It was 2,499 votes. And because of that, if you tried to pass a bill to restrict democracy in Wisconsin, the governor could veto it, and the veto could not be overridden, and democracy was safe. After that, we had a Supreme Court race. The advisor to the Republican fake elector strategy in Wisconsin ran for Supreme Court, backed by the whole Trump machine. A bigger independent expenditure in the race for Supreme Court in Wisconsin in 2023 than the total amount spent by both sides in any previous judicial election in the country. We made that election about abortion and democracy, about our fundamental freedoms, the things that should be at the heart of the birthright of every American and everyone who's come to America. And we won that election by 11 percentage points. And that means that in this moment, if we win the presidential election here, it will stay won, because we have focused at each step on the one thing we needed to do to save democracy in a place that it mattered most. And I tell this story both because I'm so proud of what everyone in Wisconsin's done and grateful for all the help from people all across the country who are joining us tonight, but also to tell this story because now, in this moment, you are the star of this story. You're the hero that we need, because California uniquely has the power to stop the MAGA maniacs, the Mike Johnsons of the world, from controlling the U.S. House of Representatives. And the damage that they can inflict on our democracy and our freedoms if they hold on to the House in this election is unimaginable. But the progress that's possible if we're able to reverse control of the House in this moment is so vast. Now, as a Wisconsin Democrat, I usually come to California for fundraising and finding out-of-state volunteers. But in this moment, California, your own democracy can save democracy for this entire country. Your votes, your volunteering, your donations to support these candidates for Congress, they can turn the tide in this House battle that is central to the question of whether the American experiment will survive. We have lessons that we can share from Wisconsin. The first is to zero in on the things that make all the difference in the world. If anyone on this call has ever donated an ActBlue, you probably have 100 emails in your inbox every single day from different candidates asking you for money, text messages, but zeroing in on the handful of races where you decide to make your stand and make sure that you actually win and flip the House majority can make all the difference. So focus. Secondly, make sure that the people doing the work are the hero of the story. We love our candidates. We love our elected officials. They're heroes. They're so brave to put their names on the ballot, do the work. It is hard work when you're serving in public office, but your activists, your supporters, your volunteers, they're actually the protagonists in this narrative. And the video did that exactly. And everyone on this call, you are here because you know that your work and your effort can make the difference. Hold on to that light and keep spreading it. The third thing is to give people specific things to do. In Wisconsin, I will say, you can donate to us. You can join our remote organizing team, do phone banking. You can join our voter protection team. I know that you're doing exactly the same thing, giving people the concrete steps and actions they can take. There's no better cure for political anxiety than taking action. It is a wonder drug, and it is something that has an inexhaustible supply. It's just your time and your will and your focus and your energy and your willingness to let the kids watch TV when you're doing your phone banking. But that's totally fine. They will thank you for it later when they grow up in a democracy. It makes all the difference. And the last thing I want to share is that it's critical at every step to find the incremental wins step by step and make sure people see the impact of what they're doing. Reflect back to them that they're actually making a difference with their work. When you reach a fundraising deadline or a goal and you surpass it, celebrate that. When you have a goal for the number of doors you want to knock or phone calls you want to make, reflect back to people that they came together and they did it. And then on election night, you can't control whether you win or lose, but you can know that you did everything in your power. And every win that you do rack up becomes a collective victory that creates the energy for the next fight. Wisconsin has a ridiculous number of elections. We have 6 elections every 2 years, at least, when there's no special election. Every spring, we have a spring primary, a spring general. Every other fall, we have a primary and a general, and it is exhausting. And probably some people on this call sometimes have felt exhausted in their political work in this moment of constant crisis of one election after another. That's the most important election of our lifetime. So you have to celebrate and reflect on the fact that by doing this work, you're actually building the kind of democracy that everyone deserves to live in. Democracy is a life sport. It is like pickleball. And it is something that at every step, you can be involved, whether you're dinking or way back away from the net. My wife plays pickleball. I picked up about 2 words about it. It is something that all of us can do on a year-round basis, but to make it possible to sustain the energy, you will have to find the joy as well as the abject terror of what can happen if we lose the joy of participation in itself. Because participating in doing this work, deciding that all of us can be the protagonist, that is how we find the energy to sustain ourselves through fight after fight after fight, that through the incremental power of winning these elections and participating in these elections can allow us to create the kind of world that everyone deserves to grow up in. So with all that, I want to thank everyone so much for your work and for your dedication and for what you're going to do. Wisconsin doesn't have enough swing House seats to save the U.S. House, but you do. So we are counting on you. Wisconsin is counting on you in the California Grassroots Alliance to do this hard work, save the House, and make sure that we are living through a rebirth of American democracy. Thank you all so much. Go fight, win.
Oh my gosh,
Thank you.
Ben. That's just amazing. And I was going to have to cry when you pivoted to saying, okay, now it's our turn, because I've been sending money and sending friends to Wisconsin for years on purpose, because you always spend it well. Thank you for your list of the things we should do. Focus, to center the volunteers, etc. That's the values of our organization. So, oh my gosh, are we lucky to have you kick off our evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Ben. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Betty.
Thanks, thanks. Well, and I understand that Congresswoman Katie Porter, our wonderful person from California, has entered. Oh, there she is. Indianola, Iowa. I have connections to Katie Porter that she doesn't know about, but my biggest connection to Katie Porter is in my life. She has modeled what it means to hold your progressive values so firmly and so strongly that you can hold up a whiteboard and terrify corporate America. Like who needs that skill besides all of us? So Katie Porter, I am so thrilled, and I'm not going to waste any of the minutes that we have you here with introductions, other than to say you've been impactful in the House, you've been impactful in the books you've written with Elizabeth Warren and with the statements you've made and the books you've written yourself, and you've been impactful because you're showing us what a smart woman who won't put up with anything can do. And it's just an honor to introduce you to the California Grassroots Alliance and our sweepstakes night. Your topic is winning tough races, and you know from tough races. So Katie Porter, thank you for representing us so beautifully, and thank you for coming tonight. Take it away. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Patty. Thank you to everyone at Grassroots Alliance for having me here. It is so refreshing to have the chance to talk to real humans. It is a huge welcome change from the dysfunction of the House of Representatives. And let me tell you, the House under Speakers Mike Johnson and Kevin McCarthy, it's been what we call, where I grew up, a doozy, featuring not one, but 2 lengthy speakership debacles and continued uncertainty about how Republicans will govern with the majority they have. So the solution to their struggles to govern is to put them out of power so that we, as Democrats who are ready to govern, not just for Democrats. We are ready to govern for America, for Americans. And so we need to make sure that we're doing the work here in California. Given the slim majority that we have right now, we could flip enough seats in our state alone to retake the House majority. So don't get me wrong. I want us to build a durable Democratic majority that wins in every part and pocket of this country. But I want to use this time to talk about why our work here in California really matters. I know many of you already know why, but it's a conversation that I find myself having to have again and again and again with people in DC. So as Patty said, I was elected in 2018 as part of a historic class that energized the electorate, that flipped the House, and we won 7 seats here in California, and I became the first Democrat ever to represent my part of Orange County. 2 years later, the very next election cycle, 4 of those 7 seats flipped back to Republicans, and that is where they remain today. So it is shocking to me, given that what we did to deliver the majority, the tough losses we took in 2020, that so many of these so-called political operatives in DC don't realize that just because you are in a blue state doesn't mean you don't have swing seats, doesn't mean you don't have persuadable voters, doesn't mean that you don't need to have a strong field program. If we sit back and count on the blue nature of California, if we do what we did for so many years, places like Orange County won't be Democratic. And so it's really, really important that because we don't get much national political attention from national political organizations, and let's face it, I'm a truth teller, so here's the stone cold truth. Joe Biden is not going to come to California to do anything other than raise money. And he should. He should raise money here. He should spend his time in swing states, Nevada and Pennsylvania and Ohio and Montana. But he's not going to be carrying the top of the ticket for these House seats. We don't have a governor on the ballot. We don't have an attorney general on the ballot. We now have a wonderful colleague of mine from the House, Adam Schiff, who's going to easily beat Steve Garvey. So where are the people up the electoral chain who are going to be funding a field program, hiring canvassers, putting up billboards, sending out mail, running text programs? Those folks are not going to come from DC. Those are the people on this call. So I sometimes hear candidates say, well, I just need the cavalry to come. I can win, but I just need help. I need the cavalry. I have news for you. You are the cavalry. If you are waiting for someone to come from Washington, you're going to be waiting a long time. And I have seen that in my races. I got very moderate support my first election in 2018, virtually no support in 2020, and no outside support in 2022. And what am I? Winner, winner, chicken dinner in Congress. So you can't wait until, okay, this cat, I got my kids this cat because I lost the Senate race, and I promised if I lost, I would get them this cat, but it's making me absolutely crazy right now. So pardon me if you see me swatting at things. The cat is also wants to be part of our grassroots movement. So we had in our race had to raise and spend over $25 million to defend the 47th seat. What did we do? We outperformed every other Democrat on the ballot, from Governor Newsom to our Orange County Board of Supervisors candidate. So I know that it can be done, but that it's not easy. And the help isn't going to come from Washington. It's going to come from us, from Californians who decide that they're willing to work where they're needed in California. So the work that the Alliance does is just so important because we have several California races that were decided by a few thousand ballots. And so it really, really matters. Every voter contact matters. So I thank my lucky stars that I get to live in a state as great as California. I'm lucky, grateful that my daughter gets to grow up in a place that is protecting her right to make decisions about her own body. But our state's commitment to safeguarding our freedoms, from LGBTQ and trans freedoms to abortion, means that many, many Californians are not connecting the dots on what will happen to our rights here in California if Republicans control Congress and the White House. And you don't have to speculate here. Donald Trump has said that he will support a national abortion ban of a certain type. House and Senate Republicans have said that they will support a national abortion ban and are likely to go even further than Trump. And so as I saw in my own close election in 2022, after Roe was overturned, that alone isn't enough to build a durable Democratic majority, particularly in states here like California. It is not a substitute for doing the work and talking with voters. So the outreach that we do at the voter level is instrumental in reminding people what is at stake. The other good news I think about California this cycle, besides this amazing alliance and many groups all across the state that join with you and do the work of knocking doors and contacting voters, is that we have some terrific candidates, I think. I've already endorsed 3 of them through my leadership organization, Truth to Power, and have been giving and raising money for them. Dave Min, who is the current state senator, he represents me and my family, and I think I can give him the highest commendation by just saying Dave has never taken a vote that I disagreed with. So, and I'm pretty picky, right? I'm willing to hold Democrats and Republicans to account. His voting record really speaks for itself, particularly on issues like gun violence prevention. So Dave Min, our current state senator, came through the primary. He's running in this seat, taking on the same Republican, Scott Baugh, that I beat last time. We spent millions of dollars telling Orange County the truth, that Scott Baugh is a lobbyist lawbreaker. Dave is going to be able to build on that to hang on to this seat. I've also endorsed Will Rollins, who I think is just terrific. Very, very top caliber candidate. He's running against Ken Calvert in Palm Springs. And Ken Calvert has the virtue for Democrats that he's pretty lazy. So Will is a super hard worker. He came so close last cycle. So with enough hard work, we're going to be able to elect Will Rollins and get rid of Ken Calvert. I've also endorsed Derek Tran, a Vietnamese candidate who is running against Michelle Steele. We saw a lot of disinformation and misinformation in language in Vietnamese last cycle. Derek is really well positioned to counter that, doing things like speaking in Vietnamese on Vietnamese local television, radio, and print. None of those 3 candidates, Dave and Will and Derek, take corporate PAC money. So let's remember the class of 2018 ran on 2 things: standing up to Trump, wresting control of the House of Representatives back from Republicans, and changing how Washington works to make our government more responsible. We weren't a class of career politicians. We were a class of Army Rangers, a class of business owners, a class of nurses, a class of public health officials, a class of professors. And we brought those skills into the job and fresh energy into Washington. So I'm really excited that Truth to Power is supporting them. We support candidates who do 2 things, just 2 things: reject corporate PAC money and pledge to fight for a ban on congressional stock trading. We have a questionnaire and it literally has 2 questions. This is like unheard of, but we're really trying to focus people on 2 messages that we believe any candidate running in any swing seat, regardless of its geography, its demography, whether it's up in far Northern California, whether it's here in Orange County, whether it's in between, those are winning issues, period. They're winning issues to persuade Republicans who can be persuaded. They are winning issues to engage younger voters who are concerned about corruption. They are winning issues for core Democrats who want to see the party live up to the promises that it made. So I'm very, very excited to help you to be out on the ground and do some door knocking myself. I've already turned over my big, huge whiteboard to another candidate. I've given Dave 250 clipboards, 10 printers. I actually just gave him the keys to my entire campaign storage cubicle. And that's the kind of collaborative hard work and support that these candidates are going to need. And they are so lucky to have California Grassroots Alliance with them. Thank you all so much for your work.
We are so lucky, Tom. Let's go ahead and have you unmute. And because we've
Yeah, thank you.
already got Jess and Katie Porter, we are honored and thank you for reminding us.
Thank you. And I'll
thank you.
see
Yeah.
you guys. I'll see you guys at the Canvas launch.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Katie, thank you so much. Wow. What just a tremendous amount of energy already from Ben and from Katie. And if you've got the QR code still that we showed for you earlier in the evening, you can go ahead and just leave a one-word response. What was your reaction? What was your response to Katie? And just go ahead and leave that there. And I think we've got Jess with us here as well. Is that right? There she is. So speaking of energy and enthusiasm, again, we've got three people here who are so wonderful and so widely known that if you don't know them, I would, I'd fall over backwards. But I mean, the energy and enthusiasm just that you bring every single day is just gobsmacking. It would just, I would be worn out. And how you do it, I don't know. But we had to have you here because you were such a grassroots dynamo, and we are just so excited that you chose to join us. Thank you for being here.
Oh, hi. Woo. Hi, everybody. Well, thank you very much for having me. Hi, Jason Berlin. Well, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much to the whole Alliance for inviting me. And my God, to follow Katie Porter and Ben Wikler, who are two of my complete and total heroes, is really wonderful. And that whole spiel that Ben just gave about the trajectory of Wisconsin, I was taking notes the whole time because I was like, I want to make this into a TikTok. That was so inspiring. And but equally inspiring is what you guys are doing here tonight, to see this many people on a call about California congressional races, and to know that people like Patty and everybody on this team are on this job, and to see that ad, oh my God, like, or video, whatever you want to call it. I watch a lot of political commercials. I'm very, very interested in messaging. I go to a lot of messaging workshops, and that was like the culmination of everything that we have been taught about good messaging. And it was done by, if I'm not mistaken, all volunteers. That is remarkable. And it really made me think about how much we have all evolved in the, 8 years we've been doing this. Oh my God. Like a lot of us came into this sort of green to politics, or like vaguely interested, but, really sort of shock troops who were shocked. And over the last 8 years, I have watched as people in the grassroots, the quote unquote resistance, have become so capable. We came in, energetic and willing and freaked out, but we were green. None of us really knew what we were doing. And 8 years later, that is not the case. This is a group of people, all of you, everyone on this call, who is seasoned. We are seasoned. We are connected with each other. I know Patty for a long time. I know Jason for a long time. I've watched Ben on a million, I've been at canvassing events with Katie Porter. I've canvassed for Katie Porter. There's this incredible, beautiful unity that has grown up. And I have watched as people have come. I knew Jason before we were on the neighborhood council right after Trump got elected. And then I watched him start Field Team 6 and the whole evolution. And now he's, this sought after public speaker, and he's got this amazing organization and everybody. So the topic I'm supposed to talk about is why I am confident that we will be able to flip these seats in November. And the reason I'm confident is because of all of you, is because of watching these grassroots activists become seasoned fighters in an extremely just, I don't want to call it a war. We're going to try not to call it a war, but for a very just cause. And the best people are fighting on our side. The smartest, the kindest, the most ethical, the most creative, and the most determined. And that is why we'll win. And we will win because we know what to do. Winning is not rocket science. California suffers because there are so many other states where we all feel like, oh my God, I've got to go, get in a car and drive to Nevada and canvass there, which, is great. Or I got to go to Wisconsin, or I got to go. But we, I think, have suffered a little bit from taking our own state for granted. But what's great about this group, us, is that we learn from our mistakes and we don't make them a second time. We evolve, unlike the other side, who seems to do the exact opposite. They devolve. We're evolving. So we saw what we did, right? We neglected California in the last couple of races. I mean, not all of us. Some of us worked very hard, but like we didn't do as much as we needed to, obviously, and that's unfortunate. But we're going to do it this time. We have this new alliance, which is absolutely incredible. We know how to knock doors. We know how to register voters. We know how to phone bank. We know how to text bank. We know how to postcard. We have done all of these things. We know, Indivisible has this wonderful neighbor to neighbor program, which I don't know if that's working in California yet, but we know what we need to do. So all I ask of all of us, myself included, is to take some of that energy that I am going to focus on swing states, just keep a little reservoir of it that I'm going to focus on my home state. I'm going to spend time canvassing in my home districts. I will be up in California's 27th district because that's closest to my house, but I have canvassed in almost, I think, every single district that we are talking about. I have been to and either canvassed or done ballot curing, including Ken Calvert's district, where, do you guys remember Julia Peacock? Was that her name? She ran in 2018. Back then, like, we have been trying to win these seats, and in many cases, we have won them for a while now. We know what we're doing. So there's a lot of noise right now. There's a lot of chaos. We are going to do the thing that we do best, and this is why my newsletter is called Chop Wood, Carry Water. We just need to chop wood and carry water in the state of California, the same way we're doing it in the rest of the country. We have the volunteers. We have the technology, as they used to say in the $6 Million Man, or whatever that show was called, Bionic Man. I don't know. We can do this. So I always recommend my readers in my newsletter that we stay in the day. We screen out the noise, screen out the polls. We're going to get really good polls, then we're going to get really scary polls, and it's going to go back and forth. And we want to remember what has happened in every election since Trump got elected, which is that we have kicked ass, excuse my language, and we're going to continue to do so. As I always say, this is tough, but we are tougher. And as I watch our numbers grow, and as I watch us get more innovative and more coalesced, I have every confidence that the victory we experience in November will be our biggest victory yet. And it is going to include flipping these seats. It has to. It has to. And I'll just close by saying one of the things I think we're not as good at doing is keeping a vision for what we want to achieve. And remember, if we flip the House and keep the presidency and keep the Senate, which I absolutely know we can do, we get to codify abortion rights and stop this nonsense. We get to pass common sense gun laws. We get to get rid of the filibuster, or at least carve it out. We get to pass voting rights. We get to pass stronger labor laws. There is so much. We get to pass the Pride Act and protect people like my 14-year-old non-binary child. There is a lot that we will do, and it is really important for us to remember. President Biden has been an astonishingly good president, but he's just getting started. And we Democrats are also just getting started. So let's not quit before the miracle. Let's go forward. Let's do our work here in California. Let's flip these seats that we know how to do. And let's go for the big prize in November. And I know we can do it. So thank you in advance for everything you're going to do. I am so proud to be counted in your numbers. And that's it.
Jess Craven, thank you so much for what a glorious and inspiring speech, and so apropos, because that's what we're here to do. It kind of seized on the word coalesce, because this is really about having a goal and saying there are 6. People think, oh, we've got to work in the swing districts, and they think that means swing states. Well, it doesn't always mean swing states, because the House isn't created around states. The House is created around districts. We have 6 precious purple districts in California. It's our job to coalesce focus on that goal and get the job done. Jess, thank you so much for being here and sharing that with us. Patty, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about the roadmap for bringing us together, building this network, and reaching our goal.
Okay, I'm so energized by hearing from three of my adored people. And I really want everybody, including the people who are scared of TikTok, to go ahead and join TikTok for as long as we have it, just so you can follow Jess. Because anytime I get depressed or worried, I go ahead and listen to Jess. Sometimes what she's doing on her TikTok is she's working through feelings of sadness or upset because of terrible things that are happening. But then at the end, she always gives me, it's sort of like Robert Hubble, you know, I need my Jess dose every day and I need my Robert Hubble dose every day. And I'm so grateful for both of them. So our strategy at the Alliance is very much both a bird's eye view and the on the ground. And we always said that that was going to be an important thing for us. As we know, we can sweep 6 and take back the House. This is LA Times illustration, and it's just insane. I'm not going to make you read the numbers, but flipping 5 purple and holding 1 blue district, we can make the difference. And of course, we want much more than just that. But if the 218 is what gives us back the gavel so that they can't sit on Ukraine funding for 6 months and never call a vote on anything, it's totally worth it. So I want to talk to you about the volunteer, the guiding principles that are important to us. And I think they align pretty well with what Ben Wikler told us about what he did in Wisconsin. So we said that our guiding principles when we formed the Alliance last summer was center the volunteers, be strategic, non-redundant, and bottom up, because we'd seen enough of that top-down stuff where people sat in Washington and told us what ought to happen and who could get money and who couldn't get money. Nope, we don't like that. We'd rather be bottom up. And we wanted to combine our on-the-ground intel with a statewide overview, because you need to know what's happening in the district, but you need to know what's happening across the 6 districts, because we want the best and highest use of volunteer time and talent and fund. So I won't take the time to go through our promise, but the fact that we're a network, we're not an entity on our own, we're a facilitating network organization that is just trying to help people get to the right place at the right time to do the work that their heart wants to do, to help our democracy and to take back the House majority. We want to use evidence-based practices, and you're going to hear about some of those from Nancy Latham shortly. We want to be sure that people who are stuck in red regions, because, you know, like if you live in Kevin McCarthy's district, even though somebody else represents it now, you could feel pretty lonely. But we're saying, no, just go on over to CA22 and get to work there. It's not that far, and there's so much good work to do. And we're focused on the winnable seats, even though we love California 03 and a bunch of other districts, and we know that eventually we want to flip those 2. But right now we picked the 6 that are the most crucial and the most important. So here's our 6 and our 6 and our 6, which is why we're so interested in using our concept of sweep 6. So I want to remind you, Katie Porter, Congresswoman Porter was talking about what it was like in 2018. That's what it looked like. We were underwater in the primary, but by the time we got to the general, we managed to get there. I want to show you that in the districts during the primary, not very good turnout. We were sad to see 20% turnout in CA22. The highest one was Katie Porter's district, 40% turnout. But take a look at this slide if you want to see how many other voters didn't vote. So every single one of these 6 districts, 250,000 people who could have voted in the primary didn't vote. So we just got to go get them, and we know who they are. Meanwhile, though, and tonight's fundraising link, and I'd like to ask my colleagues to put the link in the chat, specifically the fundraising link tonight is to see if we can help Field Team 6 go after these specific targeted likely Democrats who are unregistered voters in each of these districts. So the lowest number is, we think there's 30,000 more in CA27, partially because they've been so diligent about registering voters, but there's a bigger number in CA13. There's 43,000 people that probably are likely Democrats, and they're not registered. So we want to raise the money because it only takes 25 cents to literally purchase the name from the data vendors, and then to go ahead and email that name, and to go ahead and text it, and emailing and texting and things like that. So the name costs about 14 cents, and it costs another 10 or 11 cents to do the emailing and the texting. So 25 cents, and Field Team 6 typically yields 1 out of 3 as a new registrant, as a blue or purple registrant. Well, wow. So if we could go after 40,000 names, if we could raise $10,000, that would give us 1 out of 3. I think I would like that. A third of 40,000 would be very pleasing to have another 13,333 voters. So that would be pretty good. So take a look. This is the number that we had in our primary this year. But look what we can do. We can get to 55% this time. So this slide is just showing you what's possible. So what do we call our campaign? We call it Sweep 6. And there's our animation, because we're inviting everybody not just to be a volunteer, which we value so much, but to be a firebreaker. That essentially we're saying that if you're joining with the Alliance, you are becoming a firebreaker. And what is a firebreaker? It's somebody who draws the line and says, no more, MAGA, you can't do it. So we're very interested in doing it that way. Now I'm going to turn the program over to my colleague, who is Steve Murphy. And Steve, I've got your slides up. And go ahead and unmute yourself and talk to us a little bit about what you're saying about monitoring digital media, because that's part of our bird's eye view. We need to find out what's going on in these districts.
Well, thanks, Patty. I appreciate that. You know, we need a lot of voters on that fire line. And, you know, if we're going to sweep 6, so how do we get them? Well, there's one analogy I would make, which is basically that holding the line actually starts with a bird's eye view. And the bird's eye view in this case is just like CAL FIRE, that needs to go up in the air to be able to identify where the break lines are and the containment lines, and identify the hot spots and everything else. What we want to do is to do that same sort of insight from across all 6 districts. In those 6 districts, we developed a digital media monitor to do just that. And what we're doing is we're tracking digital media, news, blogs, social media, web, etc., Facebook, Instagram, all of those, to see what issues people are talking about in those districts, and also comparing the mentions and the reach of each of these candidates around these issues, and also not only our candidates, but the competitors. And that's the piece of it that we're trying to do, is to look at it across all 6 sweep 6 districts, but also to be able to dig in at a district level where the conversations happen, and that's where the work gets done. So, you know, if you want to follow through to the next slide, then it shows, let me show you an example. And so this is just an example of the kinds of data that we're able to collect across all these different media. So we get information across all these different media, and it comes across us. And over the period of a couple of months we've been doing this, we've received over 350,000 mentions across all these different districts, et cetera, in terms of different things from different sources. And all of this on one level is just a snapshot in time. But what it's kind of interesting is our little team, we have a very small team, but we dig into those number of mentions. And if you look at those little red arrows, you see where the peaks are in that. And those really are kind of hints that those are areas where we had a big flurry of activity. That could be something about a big issue. It could be something about an event or whatever. And if you're looking at this in March, well, of course, there's 2 events that happened in March. The first one looks like on March 5th, there was a big uptick in mentions around Derek Tran. Well, of course, that was the election, the primary. The last one at the end of the month, on the 28th, is another one. Well, what was that all about? Well, that happened to actually be about when the DCCC announced that they'd added CA45 and Derek Tran into the Red to Blue program, so that actually now we are on the same sweep 6 districts as the DCCC. So all those are the kind of things, but these bumps also flag issues that come to bear, and it's important. And those issues can create opportunities for us to draw a contrast. And especially to draw a contrast when there's things like for example, John Duarte in CA13, before you go there, Patty, but John Duarte in CA13, just on an individual basis, there's been a little bit of press lately about what he's done to basically try to promote new legislation that would disable the EPA from enforcing water safety regulations, which are the exact same regulations that he was fined for millions of dollars for before he was elected to Congress. So that is an outstanding example of what the MAGA people are up to when they say they're working for us, but they're actually working for themselves. But if you go to the next slide does talk about really the ability to compare. So we can look at this thing, and this is a really simple snapshot, but basically all it shows is that Michelle Steele is getting a lot more press in terms of total mentions in social media somewhat, particularly in the non-media mentions. But what this really is all about is it basically shows the advantage of incumbency. And it doesn't make any difference whether you are on our side or their side. You've got a natural ability to draw more news and more capability and more coverage because you're involved in politics and at the legislative process, et cetera. And so if every district we've looked at, the difference here is about 65% more mentions and noise for Michelle Steele over Derek Tran, but it's worse in some other districts as much as 2 to 3x. But even in 47, where there's no longer an incumbent in that seat, Dave Min actually has a small advantage over Scott Bout because Dave Min is still a legislator, albeit in a different house than where we want to have him. But that's just an example of that. But these are just things that we can do to kind of see where the things are. And we can also dig into the issues on both sides of the equation, things that the other side is being noticed for that we can bring to the attention and draw that contrast I was talking about or whatever. But it really isn't about the horse race. It's really about, so these competitive things don't make that. It's really about winning the narrative. That's both online and at the door. And so what we're doing is we're hoping to empower each group active in each district with through our Slack channels and biweekly updates, so they can be updated with what kind of information, whether they want to take action on it, if it's a letter writing campaign or local news media or social storms to drive our narrative, or just to keep their volunteers up to date on any local issues that as they get ready to set out to go canvass or phone bank or register new voters. Our plan is to update those on a biweekly basis beginning today. And we've placed updates for each of the 6 districts in the appropriate Slack channels. Ultimately, my ask is that we need more help to do this work more effectively. So we'd ask you to join our Slack workspace and reach out. We've been fine tuning these things for a couple of months now, but we need more resources if we're going to optimize the sentiment metrics and make those sentiment metrics work better, and to gather in-district feedback so we can validate what we're seeing even more effectively. So now I believe it's time to turn it over to Nancy, who will talk about the on-the-ground actions as we go forward to Sweep 6.
That is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hey, everyone. This is the moment you've been waiting for. We heard from Ben that we are the heroes of this story, and from Katie that we know how to get this work done, and from Jess about the fact that we need to chop wood and carry water. So here at the Grassroots Alliance, we want to support all of you to do those things. And we basically have things in 3 buckets. One is what we call the Volunteer Capacity Palooza. So that's all the things that the group leaders do to support their members to build their capacity. We want to invite you to be resource routing revolutionaries, which is an extremely sexy way to say fundraising. And I hope to convince you that it's sexy. And then we also want you to connect with us, and even more importantly, with each other. So with this Volunteer Capacity Palooza, we are thinking about what all of us need. You might need more volunteers. You might need your volunteers to get skilled up. You want to have your volunteers connected, so connected to each other, connected to your group. That's how we build long-term power. You want your volunteers to be really fired up and ready to go to sweep those 6 districts. And you also want GSD volunteers. That stands for Get Shiz Done. So we are going to turn once more to the online or on your phone poll. And the question is, what do you need? So if you go there, you will see that the choices are, you're more interested in more volunteers, skilled volunteers, motivated volunteers. How are you feeling about that? Where's your head at? And I will stop sharing for the moment so that Tom can share what the results are. And what are we seeing, Tom? Ooh, exciting. Okay. People are going for GSD.
People who've refound their phones. Yeah.
Yes, people have found their phones. Well, definitely, let's get some more people. Yay, I like the more volunteers one. And the connected volunteers, we know you want your volunteers to be connected. All right, beautiful. Well, I'm sure that you're too focused on what's going on the Zoom to be looking at your phones, but we're so excited to hear all these responses, and we will share again when it's all over how people did. Okay, perfect. So in terms of, that's what you needed, and here's what we got for you. We have, for getting more volunteers, we have volunteer recruitment supports. And Raj is going to be dropping links in the chat as we go. She might be dropping the link to the resources page, and you'll find out more about how to do all of these things. But volunteer recruitment supports is to, we have one mobilization toolkit that has some guidance on how to recruit more volunteers, and we'll tell you more about how we can directly support you in doing that. In terms of skilled volunteers, we have a bunch of resources to level up your the skill of your volunteers to contact voters. In terms of connecting volunteers, we have a couple of ideas for you to build community and spark joy, because that's what it's all about. Motivated volunteers, we want to celebrate, and we have a dashboard to help you do that, make your progress more easily visible. And then for the Getting Shiz Done, we have a curated event calendar for you. For volunteer recruitment supports, we have a very short play for you, and it's my extreme pleasure to be introducing the California Grassroots Alliance players. It's their international debut. So Maddie and Larry, I hope you're ready to go, but I want to set the stage here. What you're looking at is two happy volunteers talking to each other. Volunteer on the left played by Maddie, volunteer on the right played by Larry, and action.
Hi, a big-hearted person on our mailing list who understands the stakes of this election. I'm calling to share some ways to align your actions with your values.
Wow, thank you. I'm so glad you called. I do get the stakes. I've been thinking about getting involved again and just needed some info and/or a nudge.
And scene. So let's give our Alliance players a big round of applause. And what they're showing you here is that we have found that a really, really great way to get new volunteers is the goal that you are all sitting on with your warm list. So the group leaders in the Zoom crowd, you have lists that might be hundreds of people long, even thousands of people long. These are people who have signed up for events or they've signed up for your mailing list, but they might not be directly working with you now. So you can call through that warm list and invite them to events, invite them to join your elections fight. And we have in our volunteer mobilization toolkit, we have a script and a tracker for you, but also there is the Resident Alliance Volunteer Recruitment Fanatic, and that is myself. So Raj is going to be dropping into the chat an email address, and if you email us at that address and say volunteer recruitment supports or volunteer recruitment, I will get back to you. We will hop on Zoom and we will call through your list together. So that's something that I hope that you take advantage of. And in terms of volunteer level up resources, you may have a few volunteers who feel like this about phone banking or feel a little bit intimidated about knocking on doors. And what we want to do is support them to climb the ladder of engagement and to have more fun so that they look like this very happy phone banker on the right, and they look like this very happy person talking to a voter at the doors. And for that, once more, we have our massive volunteer mobilization toolkit. There are links to a lot of resources in theirs, and there's a resource hub. We also have hot off the presses voter conversations guide. It's essentially like a desk reference. It's got way more information than you ever wanted to know about how to engage voters, but it will come in handy. And watch this space because it is going to continually get updated. There's one huge section that is coming soon and a couple appendices still coming soon, but there's lots of stuff in there. It's also a living document in the sense that you can share feedback. You can say like, these are the scenarios that you've encountered. You'd like to see some answers in there, or any other feedback that you want to share. My email's in there, so you can let me know. And finally, we have live trainings going every week from our wonderful leader in the Alliance, Cecilia. So every week she runs Zoom workshops on how to canvas. They're called Yes, We Canvas, super cute. And so Raj will be dropping the link into that as well. So we hope you take advantage of all these great resources. And here we have building community and sparking joy. Even though it was lower down in the list of slides, this really is job one for all of our groups. So if we can have people feeling like they're in a community, like they're taking joyful action together, they're attached to each other, they make friends, they build those relationships, that is exactly what we're going to do to stay in this fight and build long-term power. And so we have a few ideas for you again in the volunteer mobilization toolkit, but we'd also love to hear from you. So if you have any ideas about how you do this particularly well, we want to hear them and we will add them. And then there's celebration and motivation. So one of the ways to do that is to set goals and work toward them together. And we have this handy dandy tool that you can use to motivate your volunteers, this easy dashboard. And what you're looking at right now is a screenshot of a live demo. And Raj is going to drop this in the chat. And if you grab the link now, I don't know if you want to do it now, you can, but you also can save it for later. It is a tool that makes logging voter contact super easy. So you'll see down at the bottom, it says want to log your voter contact in 10 seconds, not exaggerating. In fact, that's probably a little longer than it will take you. The very first time you click here and you open the logging form, it might take you 30 seconds, a minute to sort of figure out what's up. But after that, every time you do 30 calls or every time you knock 40 doors, you can click on that logging form, open it up, and log your voter contact. So for all the group leaders on the call who want one of these, you can get one for your group, for the district or districts that you are working in. And you can do that, again, Raj is going to drop some links. So you can do that by reaching out to Danessa. She is a regional organizer from Indivisible National, and she's responsible for NorCal. And you can write to her and put dashboard in the subject line. She will get together with you, ask you just a couple of questions, and she will make one of these tailored dashboards for you. But in the meantime, do try it out because you'll see just how easy it is. And then you can share it with your volunteers and they can log their data and you can see just all of the ways that you are working toward these amazing goals that you have. And then in terms of volunteers getting shiz done, one of the resources that we have for you is the page where it has a link to each of the 6 districts. So if I've already clicked on that one and I've already clicked on the CA41, Raj is going to drop that in the chat too. And if you click on the volunteer button, it will bounce you down on the same page to a calendar of events that's just 41. And these are curated events that are coming in from the great SoCal Blue calendar. And so it will just have a list of everything, but you can also filter. And so for example, I filtered here for phone bank. So you can just look for the phone bank events. It's mostly phone banking and canvassing, but cruise through and see what is there. All of that was organizing people. Now I want to talk about organizing money. So I want to invite every single person on this Zoom to be a resource routing revolutionary. That also means being a grassroots fundraiser. And first I want to tell you what you're looking at here. This is a picture of a really great fundraiser, really fun, that Indivisible East Bay, my home group, had for a power building organization that works in CD13 and actually 2 other Sweep 6 districts. And the person you see over on the left there, blonde woman in the blue jeans and the white sweater, she's one of our fabulous group members. She's an artist, and she taught everybody how to do botanical printing. So what you're seeing at the end here is everybody's gorgeous silk botanical printing scarf that they made, and they paid to come do that. And then we made another pitch there, and it was really fun, really lighthearted, wonderful day. But as beautiful as those scarves are, I imagine there's just a teensy chance that when I say the word fundraiser, I don't know, 50, 60, 70% of the people, maybe more on this Zoom, want to run for the hills. And let me see if I can change your mind. I want to say two main things. So one of them is the work that you all can do to raise funds for those frontline, community embedded, grassroots, power building groups that are working in each one of these districts. That is just, that's holy work. Hour for hour, there's so much leverage to that, because as amazing as it is to knock doors and canvas and phone bank, and believe me, I am ride or die phone banker. Somebody's gonna have to pry my phone out of my cold dead hands. But it's one thing for us to be knocking on a door or making a call. It's another thing for in-district group to be mobilizing constituencies year round. And then when it comes time for the election, they are getting those people to the polls. So in raising funds for those groups, we are not only helping secure our future and helping secure the wins for those sweep 6 districts, we're also doing work. We're also helping those organizations do amazing work year round, which is just amazing for building their durable progressive power. So that's one thing. This is really high leverage work. The other thing is that what we do to win elections every year tends to be, you know, kind of similar. We're reaching out to voters again, which is great, but there are a lot of people who aren't going to make calls or aren't going to knock doors. And for those people, let's let them shine with the panoply of skills that they have. There might be people who are incredible party planners, incredible project managers. There might be people who are great cooks and they want to cook appetizers for a house party that you're going to have, or they might be like our wonderful Amy here, who knows how to make botanical printing and can teach everybody how to do it. So you can bring your volunteers into this movement in a way, like just open up the world for how you can bring them in. And again, it gets back to building community and sparking joy. So I hope that that encourages more people to get involved. And now I'm going to ask you how you feel about it. So go back to your phones, those people who have that menti.com site opened up, and tell us, how do you feel about being a resource routing revolutionary now? And it is anonymous, so don't worry, I won't know if you say an answer that you're not excited about it, but I'm hoping that people feel way more excited about this than they did just a minute ago. And I'm gonna stop sharing so that Tom can tell us the results, and we will see how people feel about fundraising at this point.
Sure, you bet. And for folks that no longer have the link, it's in the chat. You just go to menti.com and enter the code on your phone, and then you can participate. And I think you're moving folks towards, we might give it a try, it looks like to me. And
we might give it a try.
There you go.
That pink poem for
and
people
we'll continue to
nice.
keep an eye on that. Yeah, exactly.
And luckily, I don't know who those 6 people are who said, sorry, Nancy. All right, beautiful, thank you. And we'll go back. And we have talked about people and then money, and now we're back to people. So all of this is about connection. So first we want you to connect with us, and for that, we have our buddy system. What you see here is Madeline Waldman. She is from Indivisible Sonoma County. She is a Grassroots Alliance leader, and she's heading up a team of buddies who are ready and waiting to support you. So we have a ton of resources we've been sharing. You can absolutely navigate all of those on your own, but you might want somebody to chat with about all those resources. You might want to talk about, like, well, what districts should we be in, or what methods should we focus on? Or can you connect me with Nancy to talk about fundraising. So we're hoping that you all will do this, and you can have a one-off conversation, or you can keep with your buddies all the way until the election, or maybe even beyond, because this is all about building relationships. And there are a couple ways to get in touch with the buddies. So one is, Raj is probably dropping now a link to sign up as a group leader. So when you get that, you'll get an automated email, and it will have a link to email Maddie directly. If there are people who've already filled that out, Raj is also dropping Maddie's email. So write to Maddie about the buddy system. And also we will just follow up with an email later. And so all of this will be in there. But we really do hope that you connect with us, because our buddies are awesome. And connecting with each other, maybe even more important. You saw a screenshot that looked like this when Steve was talking. So we want all of us to get together and coordinate and collaborate and align. And so if you join that Alliance Slack workspace, and Raj, I'm sure, is dropping the link again, you can join these various work rooms. You see over here, there's a work room for every single district. So I'm showing 13 now, and there's a lot of stuff available, and the Alliance folks will be dropping in periodically new information about digital media monitoring, and there was sort of a one-stop shop. You'll have a link to the candidate website, link to events, all sorts of things, and that's great. I mean, it's super cool to have people from the Alliance dropping things in here, but what is going to make the magic is all of you getting in here and talking to each other. So you want to compare notes about what you're hearing on the doors. You want to say like, hey, you're going to that canvas? I am too, let's meet up. So you can coordinate and collaborate in here. And again, that is where the magic happens. And that is it for me. It's all over except for the winning. And so now I'm going to hand it off to Tom to play us out.
Yeah, thanks so much. And Patty, I think you've got another slide or two here as well. But Nancy, thank you so much. Steve, thank you. And Patty, really at the end of the day, it may sound like the Alliance is a thing, run by a few people. What it really is some of us who got together and said what we need in California is similar to what Ben said at the very beginning. We need to have focus, because we need to know that in California, we've got 6 precious purple districts that we can sweep, and that will allow us to take back the House majority. So that's absolutely critical. People think California is a blue state, and it is if you're voting for president, which is why Biden's going to be here to fundraise and not to get your votes, as Katie said. It's a blue state, which is why we've got a supermajority in the state legislature. But when it comes to the House of Representatives, it doesn't matter. It's all about the district. And there are only a handful of districts that are flippable in the entire country, and they control the fate, as Ben was saying, of the entire nation. And we've got them here in California. And as Katie was saying, if we don't do it, nobody else will, because people don't flock to California because it's they don't think it's a swing state. Well, we got swing stuff here, folks. We have battleground districts here, and we're here to help, set the focus, not because we know what's best, but because we're looking and trying to figure out what do we need to do. And then we're trying to let you know, as Ben also said, that the power is in our hands. It's not up to anybody else to do it. It's up to us to do it and to come together. And he also said, and we need to then give people something to do. And what we're inviting you to do is to join with us, to let us help to connect each other to each other so that we can do this work together. Because, we're just kind of the priming the pump, or the kind of the starter for this, or the kindling is the California Grassroots Alliance. But what we're here to do is to bring all of us together around this cause. That's the thing that really matters. And so we invite you to join us. If you're a group leader, we would love to have you join as a leader, on behalf of your group, so we can start to connect with each other and continue to build out this work and continue to build out this effort. And if you are not a group leader, the fact that you're on this call means that you're on our mailing list. We're going to continue to send you information. We're going to continue to let you know how you can be involved. as Ben said, give people something to do. You can go to our website now and you can look for volunteer opportunities in any of the 6 districts. And if you're still in polling, I'm going to put up a poll that asks which of the sweep 6 districts you would like to help in or you would like to help win. So you may, choose all 6, or you may choose one of the 6, or whatever it might be. Steve, anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I'm just all 6 person myself.
You're an all 6. Okay. That sounds
It's
great.
simple. It's a lot easier, and will help you
Yeah.
figure out which ones to prioritize. So.
Yeah. Well, that's the message is, the Alliance isn't so much a thing as a connector, and we're here to connect all of us so we can join arms together and we can do this work together. It is up to us. And we're just enormously, happy to be in this with all of you. We
Yes.
hope that if you're a leader, that you will sign up in the leader link so that we can especially communicate with you and start planning with you about how we're going to attack this work. We know we've had some folks reach out to us and say, which of the 6 districts should I work in? We're glad to help you explore that and other questions.